Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Heart Healthy Hustle podcast, where business owners learn to thrive as we strive. On this show, we sit down with industry-leading experts about developing self-awareness, impacting your niche, and striving to live the best life possible. Our mission is to encourage ambitious pursuits in a heart-healthy way through intentional conversation and increasing self-awareness. Why heart healthy? Because burnout and stress are global epidemics. We're discussing tools that help you to navigate business ownership successfully. So whether you're driving to or from work right now, exercising, eating, or simply relaxing, come hang out and get ready to enjoy another inspiring episode of the Heart Healthy Hustle Show. Welcome back to another inspiring episode of the Heart Healthy Hustle podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan. Today's guest is a certified personal trainer through the National Strength and Conditioning Association. His name is Nick Knowles. He has worked with a very wide range in demographics, including but not limited to multiple Navy SEALs and various special ops, collegiate, high school, and youth sports teams in wrestling, baseball, soccer, football, competitive powerlifters. He's worked with mixed martial artists, pre- and post-natal clientele, cancer and remission patients, a paraplegic, and special needs youth. Nick received an athletic scholarship. Bit of a background on Nick. Nick received an athletic scholarship at Liberty University, where he had the privilege of competing and training at the NCAA Division I level. He wrapped up his athletic career as a conference champion, NCAA D1 National Championship qualifier, and team captain. Nick has been a speaker for wellness programs, training facilities, and college students. Nick played a large role in developing my own personal training technique as I interned with him as part of a dual internship that I did during my senior year at college. During this time, I was able to witness Nick's passion for focusing relentlessly only on what works. So Nick, excited to be speaking with you again, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. Glad to reconnect.
Absolutely. So we usually do jump into a favorite success quote, a motto, saying you may live by. So go ahead and share with the audience what you got.
You know, it's funny you asked that, because this is something I've actually been sitting on the last month, revamping the way that I kind of view things and my perspective and the way that I'm approaching my own craft and even the things that I do on the side, like my hobbies and how I develop in those. Before, everything was always grind. And something that's kind of enlightened me, it's actually a tattoo that my brother has. It just says, life is art. And, I try to approach my job, being that I'm a strength coach and personal trainer. I try to approach my programming like an art, where I have a general layout of how I do things. I also have a lot of freedom in how I'm going to express myself through what I've learned and how I can, relate to that person that I'm working with. So yeah, life is art.
Awesome, Nick. Appreciate you sharing that. And what was your brother's name again? I forget what your brother's, who's also a wrestler, right?
Yeah, Will, but he goes by Tank.
Right on.
Yeah.
So give a brief background on where you were raised and what your life looked like up into college.
So I grew up in Southern California, born and raised Southern California. My parents were, they're hardworking people. We didn't start off with a lot of money, and we were kind of in and out, staying with my grandparents as they were, working jobs, different night shifts and all kinds of crazy hours. So my grandparents, I wouldn't say raised us growing up, but we spent a lot of time with my grandparents who were from the Philippines. So I guess you wouldn't say that I had the traditional American, background, how a lot of kids grew up, like a lot of my friends that I have out here. But we pretty much grew up in LA, and my parents relocated to Orange County. That's kind of in between San Diego and LA for those who aren't familiar with Southern California. Long story short, I got into wrestling at about age 10. After trying a couple different sports that weren't really working out too well for me. I was always a really small kid, always very scrawny. And wrestling was the one sport where my dad told me, he's like, hey, man, your size doesn't matter here. There's different weight classes. This will allow you to kind of grow a little bit, and it will also help you get a little bit tougher. And I ended up hating it completely. I hated it. It was a tough sport. Over time, I stuck it out and started to get a little bit better at wrestling. And sooner than I knew it, I was getting college offers to wrestle in college. And that's actually what initially brought me out to Virginia to go to Liberty University was a wrestling scholarship.
Go ahead and share a background of your accomplishments during your wrestling career there.
Yeah. So while at Liberty, I'll tell you what, I think it's a nice little thing to touch on is a lot of athletes, they come in their freshman year thinking, you're the hot shot, your junior, senior year in high school. And especially in a physical sport like wrestling where you're being controlled by an opponent, walking in as a freshman is definitely a wake-up call. And a lot of guys that I started with, they were in the same boat as me. So freshman year was tough. I think there's a point there in freshman year where a lot of guys aren't sure if they want to continue wrestling. But I stuck it out because I knew that's what I came all the way to Virginia for. There's no turning around from here. And, initially my junior year, I ended up qualifying for the NCAA tournament. I got to wrestle at the big show. It was a whole lot of fun. Our program, unfortunately, was cut by Title IX, by Title IX compliance, and they moved us into club instead of Division I. So I ended up wrestling at the club nationals the next year and ended up as a runner-up at the club nationals.
Wow, man, I have so much I want to talk about, but I know from interning, I think it was 2013, maybe 14. Man, I learned a lot.
Might have been before that. Yeah, it might have been summer of 13, I think so.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Well, you shared with me during my internship with you that you had experienced quite a few different injuries, but you kind of found ways to work around that, and that also is kind of what inspired you into learning how to personal train in such effective ways, finding ways around inhibitions or whatever it may be. Would you go into that a little bit and share some of the darker moments in your wrestling career?
For sure, man. That was probably my darkest moment, aside from being demoted as a program. It was actually, I started having back issues my junior year. That was the same year that I qualified for the NCAA tournament, and it was about mid-season. Around mid-year, I started having back spasms, and it was giving me a lot of issues mid-season my junior year. This is the same year that I qualified for the NCAA tournament. I ended up going to the sports medicine director. I worked a lot with them, and they were very hands-on and very helpful, but the pain never subsided. It just kind of got worse over the summer and even postseason. And, I was going into that next year training really hard. I was going to take a red shirt that year. And throughout that summer, my back just got worse and worse. And I came to the next season not even able to run during our team runs. So they said, you know what, this is a lot worse than just back spasms. Let's go get you an MRI and an X-ray. And turns out that I had a spondylolisthesis, pretty much a hairline fracture in the L4, L5 section, and a little bit of sciatic, a little bit of compression in the sciatic nerve. So I was getting really bad pain going down my leg, a lot of numbness, and it was just extreme pain, just pretty much everywhere. Nothing that I was ever used to. So, I spent that good first semester of my redshirt junior year in pain and quite honestly on a lot of pain meds. So it was really hard for me just to even focus in school and participate in practice. And it was a wake up call for me as to taking care of myself, and also more importantly, like where I was finding my identity, not just in my sport, but as my purpose, as a young man. So that low back injury definitely challenged me.
Thanks for sharing that, Nick. Did that cause you to develop more of a passion for training?
Absolutely. I would say yes. Because kind of what happened was, I was always a hard worker in strength and conditioning. We had great strength coaches that we had available to us, and they were very flexible with me with the programming. They knew that I had back pain, so I wouldn't do anything overhead, or I wouldn't do any heavy back squats. I switched back squats or front squats. Just simple concept, just so I can kind of still join in with the team without leaving practice, walking out like Quasimodo. We definitely made some adjustments there, So yeah, we had the strength coaches available to us, and I think seeing how these guys would adapt to how I was feeling each day coming in, and really go out of their way to help me not just get better, but to make sure that I am my best performing, not just on the mat, but also in school. That meant a lot to me, and to me that was a great testimonial of a man who's investing into other young men. And initially, that was what drove me to get into personal training and strength and conditioning, was to be like those men who were actually making an impact on the athletes that they had in front of them. These guys have a great platform, and they're using it to their fullest. And it was actually the coaches who were the ones through my injury who got me to want to get into the whole personal training thing.
Witnessing their example inspired you? For
sure. I'm sure we've all, anyone who's been an athlete, at one point or another, we've had a lousy coach. You're hurt, they might just kind of, kick you to the side and say, oh, we'll get back to that guy later when he's feeling better, or he just doesn't have it cut out for him.
Give him some extra tape.
Yeah. Yeah. So that definitely made a big impact in the way that I view the whole strength and conditioning industry and coaching.
I think it was actually you, Nick, who instilled in me the visceral reactionary response to coaches who don't respect injuries and just kind of use kids through high school or even through college to just win and then throw them to the side, so to speak. Of course, that's not every coaching program, but it is an unfortunate reality in many college athletics and even high school as well. Would you agree? I
think it's mostly prevalent probably at the younger age groups. And now that I'm a little more involved with my area and working with different youth teams and high school teams, I see it very prevalent amongst coaches who even might have a good reputation out here. And I'm sure that's a nationwide problem. And I think a lot of that is just not having the right perspective, not being in it for the right reason.
That's true. Nick, I want to jump into some questions that are specifically for you and can help my audience and learn from you in your area of expertise here. So you're passionate about people you work with getting results. Why is that?
Enjoying the problem-solving aspect of it. If it were as simple as, let me write this down on a piece of paper. If you got any questions, come ask me. And if it doesn't work out, then this isn't going to work. I mean, if it were that easy, everyone would be doing personal training. Yeah. And there's a reason why a lot of people can't keep clients or get new clients. It's because they're not producing the results. And doing so, it's taking the individual into account and not just what you've learned in school or what you've read from a book or even what you've learned from a very experienced mentor. Those give you a clear lens to look through. It gives you a little bit more to work with, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can apply XYZ to a particular individual. To me, that's the aspect of what I enjoy about training is the problem solving of it.
It was very fun to witness you do that firsthand as you would train your clientele. There was a lot of tailoring. I mean, almost all of it was tailored specifically to each individual client. So it wasn't, here's what I'll do if you weigh this much and you're a male, you're 45 years old. It was like, no, like this is you and this is your plan tailored directly to you for the results you're looking for. So I really admired that. How do you deal with then uncommitted clients? Because I can hear people, maybe they're online personal training or doing it in person, or maybe they're a physical therapist, a chiropractor. Everybody, they deal with uncommitted patients, uncommitted clients. So, would you say that reflects the leadership ability of the practitioner, or would that be, how would you answer that?
People generally will find a reason as to why it might not be important for them, even if they've put down money to it and invested time. But it's the coach's job to lead that person through not only reminding them why they initially came to you and hired you, but to maybe communicate the terms better, maybe to get the client to understand initially what you were saying and look at the bigger picture of why they're actually working with you versus just the immediate result. And I think that's why a lot of clients may feel like they can't commit to it or don't really get too excited about it. Is because they don't understand the bigger picture. And as coaches, it's our job to paint that for them, and not just tell them what to do, but rather to actually make a change and a transformation through the way that they see these things and the way that they attack these things. Because it's a daily battle for a lot of these people. Some of these people, they've been living really crummy lifestyles for the last 1, 2, 3 decades, and you can't just undo that with simple directions.
Well said. And that is actually one of the root reasons I invited you on the show, is to talk about this exact thing. That is, like, you even use the word art. I love that, because I was going to refer back to your success quote, your brother's tattoo, life is art. Yeah, that is an art, approaching that situation in an effective way. Because people, when we pay for something, it's just a natural response to be like, well, I paid for it, so whatever I do with it from here on out is my choice, and that's how it is. So, of course, like you mentioned, you're not just telling them what to do, but being such a strong-willed person yourself, how do you navigate the emotional intelligence in that? How do you approach a client who they have what it takes, they've paid the money, but then they're not actually committed? So would you go into that art, the art of influencing your clients to be 100% committed?
Sure. This could be a long one, man.
Go for it. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, I guess when we're looking at, there's different types of personalities that we're all going to work with. And when it comes down to it, you need to have the experience of working with those different types of people and have, quite honestly, you've had to have failed a couple times. I've never met a coach, at least a transparent coach, who said that, I've been correct and done it right every single time and look where I am now, I'm on the top. Most people, they've made not large failures, but minor failures and learned from them. And I'll tell you what is a lot of the people who I thought I was doing everything that I could for them and they stepped away and it didn't work out. I had to sit back and reassess myself and say, what would I have done differently? If that were me hiring myself, what did I want to hear and what did I not tell them? To me, when you have that experience of being able to assess yourself and then further down the road catch yourself, from falling into that situation, that's going to prevent a lot of the miscommunication between the trainer and client. Generally, you are going to get people who do sign up, like you said, they put the money down, they put the time in, and then they just fall off the wayside. That's going to happen. And as a coach, if you truly care about the person, there's one or two ways that you can approach it. The first is you can just be blunt with them and just tell them, hey man, get your crap together. You've invested too much time. There's a reason why you got into this initially, or you can cut the cord. And this is something that I'm getting better at myself, is not just being like, hey man, this isn't going to work out. It's going to be like, look, like maybe this isn't the right time for us to attack this certain thing. Is there perhaps another thing that we can look at to improve the way that you're living? Maybe this isn't the right thing for your goal, and we were, maybe misdirected a little bit versus just cutting the person off completely. And younger in my career, I'll admit I did that myself, where I was like, hey, man, this guy sucks. He's a headache to work with. It's not worth the money. And you cut him off. And sometimes that is necessary. But I see a pattern with a lot of trainers when they dwindle away and they burn themselves out, is they tend to do that more and more, of cutting clients because they can't commit. And to me, that's a clear sign that the trainer is no longer assessing themselves. They're no longer improving the way that they can communicate with their people and I guess learn from their past failures. And that's quite honestly why most people don't make it in this industry, is because they lack that self-assessment. And I'm sure this is something you initially said we might be talking about, is an industry where there is no mentorship. When you are a personal trainer and you're on your own, especially if you're at a gym and you're the busiest guy, or you own your own gym, it's very hard to find daily mentorship. It's very important to check yourself, before you run your own business into the ground.
Yeah, just kind of letting that soak in a bit. The benefits of working with a high-level personal trainer are incredible. What would you suggest to a business owner who knows how to work out and therefore doesn't bother to consider training with a high-level personal trainer?
Well, if you're going to go to someone who claims to be a high-level personal trainer, or if you've had friends or colleagues who said, hey, man, you got to check this trainer out, they're the guy in the area that you got to go see, reach out to them. And they would initially not just want to talk about your goals, but they want to talk about your lifestyle. They want to talk about your daily schedule. They want to talk about, daily hurdles and yearly hurdles that you might run into, and try and really draw those things out, whether it's a performance-based goal or a simple weight loss or muscle gaining goal. A good trainer should pinpoint those things. And if you don't feel like they're touching those subjects upon that first meeting, it's probably not worth the investment of actually going forth and working with someone like that. But any high-level trainer is going to be able to take whatever you're doing currently right now and make it more efficient, and make the time that you're using in the gym, either cut it down and make it more efficient, or take the current time that you're using right now and get more out of it. So,
well said. Speaking to fellow trainers, what do you recommend they say to their patients or their clients after the training regimen has come to completion? The client comes to you and says, hey, this has been great. It's changed my life. I really appreciate this. I appreciate you. I appreciate the help. And it's been a life-changing experience. Now I'm scared to go on by myself. So what would you share with a client in that moment?
Sure. So that's anyone who's been in the game long enough has ran into that. And the best thing that you can do for those people is already have preset templates set up. So, I might have a template for a 50-year-old, guy. He's an upper level management, and I know that he's got a crazy schedule, and I know that in the future I might have 5 or 6 more people like him. So take the time to build that program, give different options for particular movements that they can pull from, and that way they can just pick and pull and create their own program. But I've had some people, actually a woman in her upper 60s who trained with me for about 3 years, and she was a great client. Went from somebody who couldn't even do like a regular air squat to doing deadlifts at 135 in her 60s.
Wow.
Incredible client. And she said 6 months ago that I think I've got what I needed out of this, and I think I'm ready to do it on my own. And I said, well, let me help you out with programming. She's like, no, I know what to do. So as a trainer, that should be music to our ears to know that you've taught somebody, especially someone in their 60s, how to really make the best out of the time that they have left in the gym, and get creative, do it themselves, and enjoy. To me, that's cool. So I'd say have templates set up. At the same rate, if someone's been a good student to you, there may not be any need of that at all.
That's a good point. What would you say to motivate a business owner who's not prioritizing their health? I'll give you an example here, Nick. I was interviewing actually a guy from Canada. He's a real estate investor, probably a month ago. And he was sharing how when he first started out renovating properties, he was getting off from work at 9 to 5 after putting in full effort all day, and then going to renovate those properties up until however late. And he was getting 3 hours of sleep per night, and it jeopardized his health. He became hospitalized. And in that time, he wasn't really staying. He was very physically active. He was biking a lot, but it was almost like he was not really had a long-term negative effect on his life. So what would you say to motivate a business owner in every capacity? So maybe they're like, oh, well, I work out. And it's like, well, that's not all there is to it. There's recovery, which is just as important. What would you say to that person?
You pretty much hit the nail on the head there, man. I think where a lot of people struggle with finding a reason and a need, especially, young professionals or middle-aged professionals, to find to really prioritize their health, is because they're viewing the gym, they're viewing, running or whatever it may be, whatever facet they use to get back into shape. They, one, look at it as a chore, and then two, they might look at the typical, I guess you could say, gym culture and relate getting fit and back into shape with that, and they don't want to relate to that. That's something myself I'm trying to change in the community that I'm in, is just to be a normal person who values health and wants to get in shape. And a lot of my clients are the same type of people, where they're not wearing the lifting quote t-shirts and going in and getting a pump. I think it's good to encourage those type of people that you don't have to be like that to commit to the gym. You don't have to wear the cutoff t-shirt and headband and fanny pack and, bring the gallon jug to be someone who's committed to the gym and values their health. But aside from that, you can never take for granted the energy, the benefits and energy that you get back from the gym if you are training at the right intensities throughout the week. And then the obvious, the confidence that you get. You're feeling good. You're walking with good posture. Hopefully you're improving your body composition. I mean, who does not feel better about themselves when they're looking leaner, and looking better and more fit in their clothes when they go up to a meeting or go to meet a new client? So yeah, the energy and the confidence that you gain from it is bar none. Like, so much carryover to what you can actually do to perform better at work.
I'm really curious what you think of this suggestion, Nick. For me, I've been training for a while. Like, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. And so for me, I've actually started, I don't go to a fantastic gym. I go to a great gym, but it's not my favorite. If it was my choice, it is my choice, but I go to a gym. It's pretty good. It's got a lot of fitness classes. And I decided, I'm a little bit bored with my routines, and I mix it up myself occasionally anyway. Actually, I attended a boot camp, and my heart almost exploded out of my chest. So it's like,
nice.
be willing to just, explore and have fun with it and keep changing it up and learning. And, of course, unfortunate truth that those classes, a lot of times, 90% of the people who are in them are going to not have that one-on-one attention as a personal trainer would give you. But if you know what you're doing, maintaining good posture, perfect form, then you can still experiment, and you don't have to identify with quote unquote gym culture of like gym bros with powders and stuff like that. You make a great point there, in that many people are probably scared to be identified with that, or just kind of use it as an excuse or a reason to not go. But yeah, great point there. What training regimen do you recommend for a business owner or young professional who doesn't have 2 hours to put into the gym every day?
That's an easy one there. There's two generally with most people who work with me. There are, people who are very busy, whether they're business owners or entrepreneurs or, upper management, executive level clientele that I have. The twice a week lifting, twice a week conditioning works perfectly fine if it's programmed correctly and programmed well. Another one that works too is just, I have some people who do 3 times a week. They lift 3 times a week. The lifting takes up about 45 minutes to 50 minutes, 5 to 10 minute warm up with stretching, and then just 10 minutes of general aerobic work. Nothing too excessive. The biggest thing is we're just kind of, covering everything that we need, from their strength work to their mobility to general injury prevention. We would cover stuff like that. The average working man, working woman doesn't need to do 20 minutes of HIIT or crazy metcons. Something as simple as 10 to 15 minutes of just simple aerobic work is what they need, at least from a health standpoint.
So Nick, we're going to go ahead and transition into the Heart Healthy Hustle round. I'm going to ask you a series of quick questions. Are you ready for the Heart Healthy Hustle round?
Sure.
All right, let me ask you again. Are you ready for the Heart Healthy Hustle round?
I sure am.
Fantastic. So the first category is heart. What activity do you use to care for and strengthen your internal character? So an example for this would be solitude, reflection.
2 things, either walking my dog or jujitsu.
How often do you do jujitsu?
I just started back up 4 weeks ago. I did it for about a year before. Obviously, it's similar to wrestling, but I try to go 3 times a week. To me, it kind of centers myself, and it's a nice little chin check because I get humbled there every once in a while. So it's good to come back to earth and realize that I can still get my butt kicked by someone who weighs 150.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu is I believe the guy I was just speaking with was talking about how it's all about kind of seeing a couple moves ahead of your opponent. Is that correct?
It's human chess.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, I tell you, the more I talk about it, the more interested I am in joining a gym. And your dog's name is Leonard, right?
Leonard, yep.
Yeah. Leonard the bulldog. Yeah, he's good looking dog you have there. I did see pictures of him. It's great. And you guys are living in Virginia Beach.
Yeah, he's a pretty one.
How does he like the beach?
Yeah, we're in Virginia Beach. He loves it. I live across the street from the beach, so it's nice. I could just get off my morning shift or night shift and take the dog across the street from the beach. But we actually have a state park behind us too, so I'm kind of crunched between 2 bodies of water. So it's to me, having an animal that I need to be responsible for. I have no kids yet, but having something I'm responsible for, and not just to feed it and walk it, but to actually give it a good quality of life. To me, it's a daily kind of rewarding thing that I do for something else. So it's to have a greater purpose, I guess you could say, by owning a dog.
If only Leonard could hear what you're saying. That's awesome.
Right?
That's really great. So for health, how do you maintain your physical health and avoid burnout? Does recovery play a big part in that for you?
It for sure does. But recovery it's wishy-washy with me because I'll have weeks of work where I might have tons of group training with different teams, multiple classes, and then it might be a light week for me. So what I try to do is I'll block my training. I'll designate maybe 2 months, 8 weeks, or 12 weeks to a hard training regimen. Like, let's say if I want to build muscle, I'm going to get in the gym 6 times a week and be on a different training split. And then I'll maybe I'll back off and do 3 times a week for a month, reassess, and figure out what I want to do next. So what I generally try and do is take that moment to actually peak as if I'm like an athlete peaking for the end of the season, and then back off and kind of maintain. So
what's your main motivation for doing what you do?
My wife. I want to provide her one with a good life, and also one that where we can do things that we're proud of, like running my own business and doing something that allows me to be creative and express myself, and something that I enjoy, and she knows that I enjoy that and supports me. So to me, that gives me even more drive to want to work hard and do the best I can. So yeah, my wife is my drive.
Fantastic.
So right now, my main goal is just to come in every day and make sure I'm giving people the best service possible. And I trust that things will grow from that. So
for sure. I just want to take a minute to acknowledge you too, from when I was just interning with you for a couple months. And for anybody listening who is looking for an online personal trainer to work remotely with due to your busy schedule or lifestyle, Nick was the best by far. And I'm telling you guys, I did every supplement more or less, and all the stuff, all the training styles, everything. And working with you, Nick, was the only time and the time where I actually started to put on mass as a quote unquote hard gainer and a skinnier guy. I'm about 6'3" now. I was probably 6'1" in college. So I've always been very skinny. And it just, honestly, using your training prescriptions that you made for me and tips that you gave, and just observing your work, I actually was able to gain and maintain quite a bit of muscle. So I do want to acknowledge you for that, in that area in particular.
That's awesome, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead into the sharing of your 3 most influential books and what they mean to you.
Sure. I'd say hands down, number 1 for me is How to Win Friends and Influence People. But that's a book my dad kind of made me read the cliff notes on it when I was younger, mainly because I'm an awkward kid who didn't know how to talk to people and had a really hard time connecting and making friends. And I guess I had anxiety talking to people who might have been a little brighter than me. And I read that book growing up. I read it again in college, and things started really hitting home. So I've probably read that book 3 times altogether. Hands down my favorite book by Dale Carnegie. Next, Blink by Malcolm Gladwell has helped me a ton. He covers kind of just like your first like reactionary assessment of somebody, and I guess their potential of how you can relate to them, or what you might be able to say to connect with that person. And being a personal trainer, and like I'd mentioned before, having some anxiety talking to people, I had to kind of get over that. And that book really helped me kind of cross that bridge of getting to say the right things to people and connecting to people the right way and be confident about the way that I portray myself. And then lastly, The 5 Love Languages. That's another one of my favorite books. I've read that book twice. It's helped me a ton in my marriage. It's helped me a ton in the way that I treat the people around me, my family, my friends, even my own clients. It's definitely a nice book to understand that, not everybody takes and receives love the same way. So that's been a good one too.
That's a very diverse list.
Yeah, definitely.
Right on. Do you have any favorite tech or software tools you recommend using? Could be paid or free that help you stay organized.
Sure. I'm pretty standard, but being that Instagram, I run a lot of my online business through Instagram and market myself on Instagram. Canva, I'm sure most people, who Instagram graphics, it's a graphic design website. And I think they got like a regular membership that you can buy. It's fairly cheap, but Canva is a great one that I use. They got a lot of preset templates to build, if you're going to make motivational quotes or different graphics around a video, that works great. Another one that I use is Video Shop. Another cheaper video editor. I like that one because it's very simple to impose photos and videos on a video. So that's key if I'm doing a video where I might be demoing an exercise and I want to impose a photo, have it lay over, transparently over my video and add different textile graphics. Those two are pretty much the most helpful ones for me. And obviously I'm on my iPhone all day.
So this is the last question of the show, Nick, and it's definitely my favorite. I tell the guests, try to speak to yourself here. So the question is, if you could go back in time, what would you tell your younger self and why? And try to pick a time in your life where it was a little bit of a darker period, where you're really struggling, you're not sure how things are going to work out. You didn't know you'd be living a block from the beach with a great family, your wife, Joy, your great dog, Leonard. You were struggling, you kind of going through a confusing time in your life, maybe not 100% sure of your purpose. If you could go up to yourself, you're sitting on a bench, you sit next to yourself, put your hand on your shoulder, what would you tell your younger self and why?
That you need to invest into people and you need to invest into the ones who care for you. More specifically, not just your family, but your friends. In college, I think a lot of people build very plastic relationships or even a very, very light foundation on how friendships are built. But the ones who stick around, the ones that grow, invest into those. Give back to those friends. Gift them. Go out of your way to go visit them. That is the hardest lesson, I think, for a lot of people to learn, is just to lose someone who was influential to you and very close. And that's pretty much what I tell myself.
Yeah, it's very powerful. It's a great word. All right, Nick, and how can people stay in touch with you?
Easiest way, I'm most active on Instagram. It's at Coach Nick Knowles, KNO like Beyonce. And my website is www.coachnickknowles.com. I have an inquiry form on there that they can fill out if they're interested in coaching. Aside from that, my website and Instagram are probably the two easiest ways to get in contact with me.
That's awesome. Yeah, I really wish you were living in North Carolina because I would 100% train with you.
Well, anytime you're down here, man, or anytime you're up here, you come on over and we'll work out together.
Absolutely. Nick, thanks so much for being on the show. Appreciate your time, and it's been a lot of fun catching up.
Definitely. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the Heart Healthy Hustle podcast. If you made it to the end of this episode, I want to say thank you. And also, I want you to ask yourself why. What about this episode really stood out to you? I want to challenge you to take action on that thing. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd really appreciate your time and consideration to go ahead and leave a helpful review in iTunes. So it really helps the podcast grow and we can impact even more people who need this. Thank you guys for all of your support, and I will see you in the next episode.